Counting. So why are we doing all of this? How does it work? So there are two principles during the counting. First, each cross will be counted to a candidate that is allocated to the list. So in fact, the crosses of the candidates will count to decide the number of positions allocated to each list. So the biggest list with the most crosses to candidates will get the most seats in the council. The second principle is that once you know that, for example, the yellow or the green have received 8 seats, the question is who is going to get them? And that's where the number of crosses pro candidate is important. That's what they call the internal distribution. So the external distribution, this is between the lists, and the internal distribution is who gets the seats within the list. So let's have a look. So here is a series of ballots that have been filled in. And the first thing that they will do at the counting is they will eliminate all the ballots with 2 crosses for 2 different lists. So here you see, for example, this one here is invalid. So it will be removed. Second thing they will do is they will remove all the ballots where there is a mark of some kind. So you may not do a smiley, you may not do a comment, you may not. In fact, the only thing you are allowed to do is make cross and bar candidates. That's the only things you are allowed to do. Otherwise, invalid. So yes, the ballots with 2 crosses on the top are invalid. So the counting of the votes by lists. So we have made an example here. You see, with a simple election with only 3 lists, there has been 100 voters, and the total of crosses for list 1 is 795 crosses. List 2 gets 515. List 3 gets 115. So the overall maximal number of crosses that can happen in this election is the number of seats of the council multiplied by the number of voters. So here, since we have 100 voters and 15 seats, that would be 1,500. But usually there are less than that because some people may have not given all of their crosses. So the final number of crosses is what they call the participation figure. Then distribution of seats, so that's the external distribution. So yes, it's everything we've learned from Florian. This is the Heyer-Meyer proportional calculation method. That's the inventors, and this is mostly proportional. What they do is they compute the share of votes that each list has received. And since we have 15 positions, or 15 seats, this corresponds to 8.167 seats, 5.291, and 1.5. And in fact, they give entire numbers to each list, and the one with the biggest rest gets the additional seat. So at the end, you have the 15 seats. So to keep it simple, if the list 3 takes the last seat, that's because they are the strongest remaining after the comma. I see there are some comments, perhaps?
No comments.
So now the distribution of seats in the list. So we'll have a look at list 1, which receives 795 votes. So it has an average of 53 votes per candidate, but some of them had more crosses than others. So what you can see, for example, here is that 103 somehow, although it's in position 3, wasn't liked very much, got barred, got less crosses, whichever, and has only 38 votes, whereas 111 was very popular and received 60 crosses. This means that the sort order in the list will be rearranged according to the count of crosses, and 111 goes up, so that at the end, when they select the 8 elected representatives, it is not up to the list who gets selected. This is up to the crosses, and those 8 persons will be elected because they have, first, the biggest number of crosses, and second, they were in the top positions at the beginning. So as you can see here, we have 4 candidates with exactly the same number of crosses. So then they respect the initial order of the list. I see there is perhaps a comment.
No, no comment at this time.
Because this one is a bit tricky, so. Conclusion, the system is fundamentally proportional in nature, but it leaves a lot of possibilities to actually personalize your votes. So it's a very flexible way of voting. And it is not completely controlled by the parties, because they usually, in some other modes of voting, some lists, some political parties can put on top the people they like very much, but they are not popular among the population. So people still vote for the party, but they vote for the wrong persons. But in this system, you can make sure that those persons don't come into position. So you have more choice. So yeah, don't let others decide for you and go vote. That's our recommendation. And I think that was the last slide. So now we are staying a bit longer to answer your questions and perhaps tell you a few words about the KFO.
So, in fact, Frankfurt is one of the cities with, or it's a city with a lot of foreigners living here. So we are very diverse in nationalities in Frankfurt, and that makes it very interesting, I think, as a city as such, but also makes it interesting for the kommunale Ausländervertretung to represent this community in its entirety. So we really would like to encourage you, from whatever country you're from and from whatever cultural background you're from, to look into the KV voting and to choose the people that you want to represent you in the KV.